Hey guys, Tom here again from SerumPresets.com, and in this video we're going to be looking at making this Kygo style tropical house lead. So a really pleasant sound. It is kind of taking influence from that Kygo style, or this like kind of new tropical house movement thing. And although it's like not exactly the same as what Kygo would use in his tracks, because from research that I've done and just listening to the tracks, what it sounds like is that he actually samples like a pan flute or some kind of woodwind instrument, which then seems to be layered with a synth, which is just like a basic like square wave. But what we've done, regardless anyway, is just try to create that similar kind of sound. We don't want to try create the exact same sound as Kygo, because really production wise you're not going to really get anywhere by like emulating someone exactly. But that being said, trying to recreate a sound like that is a really great way to learn, and it is a really nice sound. So just before I initialize this patch here and we begin making the sound from scratch, I'll just mention that this is, as you can read up here, the tropical house lead from my EDM preset pack for Serum, which is 128 really versatile presets that I think a lot of people will get a lot of use out of, no matter what genre of EDM that you produce. Like what I had in mind when creating it was to create a versatile collection of presets for you guys to use that cover a range of genres like tropical house, electro house, progressive house, synth pop, that kind of thing. It's just a really cool collection of sounds. So yeah, if you want to check that out, head over to SerumPresets.com or go to the link in the description below, and that's the EDM preset pack on my website. There's a 5-minute audio demo as well if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, thanks a lot for checking that out in advance if you do decide to purchase that. And yeah, let's begin making this sound from scratch, and I'll kind of explain what I'm doing as I go. Initialize preset. So the first thing we're going to do is just start off in Oscillator A here, and what we're going to do is go on the analog wavetables. We're going to go to basic shapes, and the waveform or the wavetable that we're going to use for Oscillator A is just going to be this really basic square wave. That seems to be like the main waveform that's the most kind of commonly used waveform used for this kind of sound, but it is also going to be mixed with another oscillator, which is going to be Oscillator B, and what we're actually going to use for this is this wave terminal wavetable, which, as you can see, closely kind of resembles a sine wave until you start moving this wavetable position and it becomes kind of modulated. And the reason we're going to use this is because, as I said at the beginning of the video, these tropical house leads seem to be sampling or layered with kind of like a pan flute or a woodwind type of sound. And if you actually break down the way that sound is produced using a woodwind instrument, it's actually produced by having sine waves resonate within a tube. So what we can do is actually kind of emulate this effect by having a rough sort of sine wave, and I found that the wavetable, the wave terminal wavetable was great for doing this. So we're going to keep these both at the same octave, and first of all what we're going to do in Oscillator A is increase the unison to 7, so we're going to have 7 different voices of the square wave, all slightly detuned from one another to give it a bit more width, and we'll just listen to what that sounds like. So you can hear already that's starting to sound much wider, more interesting. We're also going to give the same effect to Oscillator B here and bring the detune down slightly. And just to show you what Oscillator B sounds like on its own. You can't really hear Oscillator B that much when Oscillator A is turned up, but when we use some multiband compression later on in the sound, it's really going to bring out that section of the sound as well. And what we're going to do just to compensate for this as well is bring the level of Oscillator down a little bit. The next thing we are going to do is jump into the noise oscillator within Serum here, and we're going to pick this high pass J106 noise waveform. And what we're going to use this for is to give the sound that initial kind of clicky attack with a really kind of short decay envelope, which we're going to drag and drop onto the level. So you'll be able to hear this at the start of the sound now. So that just adds a little bit of attack to the sound. That'll be much more noticeable when we have the filter, which is going to filter out the rest of the sound, and also again with some multiband compression later on. The next thing we're going to do is jump into envelope 1 here, and what we're going to do, by default envelope 1 in Serum is the amplitude envelope for the sound, and then we're going to use envelope 2 to actually modulate the cutoff of a low pass filter that we're going to use. So the first thing we're going to do is bring the decay and the sustain right down and bring the decay back a little bit. And what this is going to do is give it that really kind of pluck-like nature, and we're going to give it quite a lot of release as well. So then we get this. So you can hear already that's really starting to shape up the sound now into that pluck-like sound that we want. The next thing we're going to do is dive into the filter section, as I mentioned, and we're just going to use a basic low pass 12 dB filter, and we're going to make sure that oscillator B is also being routed through the filter as well as oscillator A. And what we're going to do, as I mentioned, is we're going to set up another pluck-like envelope here, but with a slightly sharper drop, and we're going to give this a little bit of release as well. I'm actually just going to take down some of the release on the amplitude envelope a little bit. And what we're going to do is drag and drop this envelope 2 onto the cutoff of the filter. And now this will kind of really emphasize the pluck-like nature of the sound even more. So already that's really shaping up and it's starting to sound really cool. So what we're going to do now is actually dive into the effects section. We've got the basis of the sound set up here. So what we're going to do is jump into the effects section, and the first thing we're going to do first of all is actually add a little bit of multiband compression. This is going to bring out a lot of the crispiness and high end in the sound, and it's going to bring out some of the harmonics in oscillator B a little bit more, and also the noise at the start of the sound, which isn't actually being routed through the filter, so that we make sure that we really hear the initial attack of the sound. So what we're going to do is we've just selected the compressor here. We're going to click this multiband button and just increase the gain a little bit. Just be careful when you do this, because when you increase the gain of the compressor, the sound as a whole is going to get louder, so you might want to just turn the master down. So you can really hear the difference there if I toggle this being on or off, and it really kind of brings out the attack and pluck-like nature of the sound even more. So that makes a really huge difference, and it helps to kind of polish the sound a lot. Now there's a lot more you can do here. One thing that I would advise doing with any lead sound like this is bringing an EQ into the effects chain at the start, and just rolling off some of the low end. I mean, typically this lead's going to be playing over the top of like a kick drum and a bass line and maybe some guitar and lower elements, and really you just want it to sit on top of all those things. You don't want it interfering. So what I like to do, and what I did for the preset pack on a lot of these lead sounds, is just rolled off some of the low end, just to make, you know, your lives a bit easier when it comes to mixing. And the final thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of reverb to the sound, with, you know, quite a lower mix, because we do want it to actually cut through. One tip I can give you, and it's actually a mistake that a lot of people make when creating lead sounds. You know, when you listen to the lead sound on its own, it can sound really great with a lot of reverb, with kind of a really wet reverb. But then what essentially you are doing by making the mix amount of the reverb really high is you're actually taking that lead sound away from the foreground, and psychoacoustically you're pushing it into the background, because then you're hearing a mixture between the direct sound and the reverberant sound. So one tip I can give for lead sounds: make sure that you don't apply too much of a wet reverb, otherwise it's going to sit back in the mix, when in reality you want it to be right in the foreground. So that's sounding really great. I'm really happy with that. It is, I think, pretty close to a lot of the lead sounds that you hear in a lot of tropical house tunes these days. And it's just a really, really pleasant, really nice sound. So yeah, hopefully you got a lot of use out of this video. What I'd advise doing would be, taking this kind of sound and then changing it further. Maybe experimenting with some different wavetables. You could add external effects, use an external reverb instead of Serum's. There's really a lot you could do with this sound. Maybe use slightly different envelopes with different filters, and yeah, there's just a lot you can do. One thing that might also be worth experimenting with would be different sources of noise in the noise oscillator. You could even take it as far as to sample like a contact instrument, like a flute, and then drag and drop it into your noise folder in Serum, and just click this key tracking button, and what that'll do is it'll play the flute sound along with this kind of synthesizer element, which could be really interesting and cool. I might do a video on that in the future, actually. But yeah, that kind of covers the sound. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hopefully you got some use out of this video. Please leave a like if you find it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and subscribe to stay up to date with new videos. As I mentioned at the start of the video, guys, as well, I do have a EDM preset pack for Serum, and if you want to support me and the channel and also get yourself a collection of really mix ready sounds just like this one in this video, go ahead and click the link in the description below. That'll take you to the audio demo for the preset pack, and there'll be further details about that as well. So thanks in advance if you decide to purchase that. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.